Hi, I'm Janet Huppel, and I'm the Director of Services to Students with Disabilities here at Our Lady of the Lake University. I'm here today to provide some strategies for studying for your finals and actually really just studying in general. So one thing I want to bring up is that you along the way you want to make sure that you have good notes that you have taken, and you can do those in a variety of ways. One way is that you can handwrite your notes. Some people prefer to type their notes, whether they're using an iPad or a computer or another device, or you can also record your notes from the class, record the lectures using a digital recorder or your phone or some other device. Those are three good ways. And then you should also be thinking about how you can stay organized. That's a really important thing, especially now that we're online, because we have to set aside time to do the different tasks. So one thing is you want to organize your schedule. Look at what's going to be due and put it out on your calendar so you can see what you have to do and when it needs to be turned in. And that way you can plan time. And then also organize your class notes and documents for each class so that you can have them readily available to study, so you're not spending time trying to look for them. Another thing that's really helpful is to really commit to yourself that you're going to unplug from social media, from texting people, from calling people, because you really want to commit the time to studying. And if we don't commit that time, we can end up getting distracted, and then it might cause you to take more time to study, or maybe to not have the quality of studying that you thought. So just put your phone away. And what you can do is you can even let people know, hey, I'm going to study from 2 to 3, so I'm not going to answer right now. And because you don't have to feel like you have to check that all the time. So go ahead and unplug. Give yourself permission. Another thing that is really a helpful tip is when you're studying, think about the time that you have and what you need to study, and then think about how you could break up that studying into manageable time chunks, because you want to think about how you could expose yourself to the material and the readings, whatever else you need to study, in a series of study sessions, maybe 20-minute sessions, maybe 30-minute sessions. Several 30-minute sessions would be much more beneficial to you than spending 3 or 4 hours trying to study the same material. The reason is the repetition, the repeated exposure. If you're looking something up, if you're writing, if you're taking notes, the repeated exposure is going to help you remember the material. Where the longer term, one-time studying, it's very exhausting for one thing, but the other thing is sometimes we don't have that degree of retention because we are not seeing it over time. So kind of think about that. You might even, if it's a lot of material, you might even break it up into segments and then study each of the segments, and then maybe go through a review of everything a few times. And then let yourself have some breaks in there too, because you've got to stretch, you've got to have a drink of water, have a snack maybe. The next tip I have for you is to find your zone. Get in a comfortable spot. Find a place that you can really study, where you can study how long you need to and in the environment that you need. So find a place where people are not going to bother you, where there's not going to be a ton of extra noise, where you're physically comfortable. So find your spot. And if you have roommates or family members that you're living with, you might want to say, hey, I'm going to need to study. And if you're not going to be in your room, then maybe you're going to tell them where you're going to be or ask for a space, and that I need to really be focused during that time. Then the other thing is, think about your strengths. What are you really good at? If you're really a strong auditory learner, meaning that you can remember things that you hear very well, then you want to think about listening to the material. Read it to yourself, or use a digital copy and listen to it, or even more, record the material and play it back. Do whatever you need to do to make it your style. If you're a visual learner, you might want to think about flashcards. Flashcards are great. One thing, I'm going to show you an example of flashcards, but one thing that I've always done as a teacher and a parent and a student is I take a flashcard, like here's a flashcard, and it has the definition of the word. On the back, as a self-check, I have the word. But I also have the word on a Post-it, because I can lay these out if I'm reviewing. I can lay all my cards out, and I have 3 or 4 cards made just to show you. I can lay my cards out, and then I can practice. I can study. And what do? I take my Post-it and I stick it on the word that I think it is, and I forgive this when it got wet. But I have my words here, and then I can check myself. I don't need anyone to help me. I can turn it over and I can say, oh, I said this was a morpheme. Here is morpheme. Okay, so that's something that is cheap and effective. You can use your sticky notes multiple times. What I do is I take my cards and I write them out myself, because I feel like I need the motor memory of writing it, and that helps me remember in my brain. But then also I take the words and I'm writing those on a Post-it or something. I like a Post-it because it sticks, and then I can stick all my Post-its together and all my cards together, and I can keep practicing them. And you can review them at any time. I can be cooking in the kitchen and I can have my flashcards and I can practice. I can lay them on the kitchen table and I can practice them when I have just a few minutes. So flashcards are great. The other thing is, you can even do that with questions. You can say, what are the 4 types of, what are the 4 stages of communication? So we have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Okay, so if we were trying to remember those 4, I could say, what are those 4? And then on the back, I could list the 4. And then I could have my Post-it note that has the 4, and I could be practicing that too. The extra writing that I do to prepare that helps me. But the other thing you can do is you can type them. If typing is more your thing, type them. You're still having to process the information, whatever it is that you're working on. But think about your strengths. If you're visual, use something visual. If you're auditory, use something auditory. A lot of people need a multi-sensory approach. If you need to draw a picture, if you need a mnemonic device, if you need to make up a story or a song, do it. Okay, so the next thing to think about is making sure that you're thinking about your own health and your own well-being, and take a break if you need a break. Exercise, take a walk, go outside, do something, stretch, do something to get away from the work for a minute. Especially right now that we're in front of the computer all the time, give yourself a few minutes to do something else. Also, have a snack. Have some snacks kind of ready, but have a snack. Have something to drink. Take a lunch break. You don't have to do all of it in one sitting. So just kind of think about those tips, and also just think about ways that you're already being successful. Okay, think about ways that have already been working for you and use those ways. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say right now about the tips, but I am going to post a couple of articles in the StudyCon, on the StudyCon page, and they'll be about effective study habits and some tips that you can use. So feel free to take a look at those. If you need anything from me, feel free to send me an email or pull me up on Skype. I'm happy to help you. Thanks.